So we're right across from Greg.
And we are live, folks. We are live. Look at those three smiling faces here. Hang tight. Let's share it around. Sing along if you know the words, guys. All right, you guys ready to roll hot?
Yes,
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Glad to have you.
All right, hold on. Apparently I'm not here. The music. Roll intro. Hello, friends, fans, and faithful followers. Welcome to this week's edition of the ABTA Tuesday Night Live. Man, I need to get a television contract for a game show or something. That was pretty good, Kenny. What'd you think, Dale? Did you like that?
You've got a better face for radio.
Noted. All right, guys. Well, hey, so
I don't know. You got your beard trimmed. I mean, you know,
I did get my beard trimmed and I got my hair cut, and I'm feeling pretty dang good about myself. I just want you all to know that. I want you all to know that when I'm feeling good about myself, it can be really obnoxious. So just yeah, you've been warned. But guys, before we roll into it, you see a face on here that some of you may not know. Michigan followers will know, and we're excited to talk to him. But before we do, I want to remind everybody that banner during the intro there. Remember, those are the supporting organizations that offer discounts to ABTA members. If you if you're a member, you can access the members section of the website. You get access to the discount codes for all those organizations, and there's some good ones there. And there's a whole lot of very good things in the works for the ABTA. Much of which you will not see externally as far as how the sausage is made, but you will see the sausage, and it's going to be good and spicy sausage. So there's good stuff, guys. So grab that membership and enjoy those benefits. And there's going to be more benefits to come. Part of that sausage making I was talking about. And we won't get into those details right now, but tonight, folks, we are joined by Dale Techel. I said the Michigan folks will recognize Dale because Dale is Dale. I call you the curator of the Michigan Deer Hunters Facebook page, and the Facebook page has, I don't know how many over, but I'm dare say well over 100,000 followers. I do happen to know that not all of the followers are from Michigan. So you are,
it's really expanded too over the last year or two.
Yeah, it sure has. And we invited Dale to come on tonight because Dale was actually a special guest at the Michigan event. And so he attended as a deer hunter and the curator of a hunting focused Facebook page. And we wanted to allow Dale to come on and talk about his perspective, talk about the event from his perspective, as a deer hunter and a very well-connected deer hunter, particularly in the state of Michigan and now Canada with your recent interview today. I'll let you tell what you want to tell about that. Sure. But we want to learn more about your Facebook page too, Dale. So, first of all, thanks for coming on, buddy. You and I have developed a pretty good friendship over the last year and a half or so. You had me on your Dale's Deer Talk podcast. We were talking about tracking, and hunter facing. When to call a tracker, the do's and don'ts. Always good to talk about here. Maybe the latter part of August to start getting folks thinking about that. Other than reminding them to make contact with their neighbors now and their local trackers. But, so Dale, thanks for coming on, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the invite. And just, I know me and you, Matt, have for quite a long time now, have gotten really good friends. And it's just, I think we kind of just had, as we were talking before, we just had a little bit, you guys do a little bit different, but we're both in the same goal for hunting, and that's recovering deer after the shot. So I know myself over the last couple of years, especially putting out the app through the Deer Tracking Network and attending now one of your events, I'm learning more what you guys all do and girls.
Plenty of ladies in it.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a very interesting event for me, and I was glad I was able to just experience that firsthand from the invite. Just because, like I said, I mean, right now I'm at, I think about 103,000 followers, and like you said, that really has expanded throughout the United States. I notice more and more, and a lot of that, I think some of the Facebook algorithms and stuff. But I think it's cool that there's that many people that are, first of all, into deer hunting and just really like. I mean, my motto is really community, camaraderie, and conservation. And it's really just expanded throughout the country and, like I said, throughout Canada and other parts of the world right now. And I think right now, my last time I looked, I was at like 21 million not reach, was that views, 21 million views per month, which is mind-blowing in my mind. But I think it's pretty awesome that there's that many people that really enjoy hunting in general. And I mean, as you know, you follow my page, there's through hunting season, there's a lot of mainly just showing people's deer they get, their experiences in the tree stand or in the deer blind, just showing what the hunting is about and showcasing people's deer. But throughout the year, it's really just a lot of news. It's and there's a lot of, I think, funny stuff that goes along with it too. And that's just a part of what I try to bring to that page, a lot of the old deer camp. I grew up with the whole deer camp atmosphere, and deer camp wasn't always serious. And that's why it was always, I mean, you hunted hard throughout the day and the evening, but at night you had fun, you laughed, you joked around. And so I try to bring that into hunting. Hunting, don't make it too serious. Hunting's supposed to be fun. And not always about getting a deer or getting an animal you're after. There's just so much more to that. And that's where the page has just grown over the years. And I've just tried to never really tried to be anybody. I'm just an average Joe hunter. I grew up in Michigan. My dad hunted. Still hunt with my family and friends, and I'm lucky to still have a deer camp that we go to up in Mankato area. And so I've hunted quite a few areas across the state. So it's just been a really cool experience, and I'm glad to be able to, I know throughout the year or through the deer season, I'll usually get quite a few messages and, hey, just shot a deer and need some help. Is there somebody I can contact? And I'm glad to be able to help you guys out and give them some contact information.
Well, and really, you're not helping us as much as you're helping the hunter. And there's a couple things I want to comment on, Dale.
Sure.
Two things. One, you mentioned kind of the purpose of your page is, you mentioned conservation in the 3 or 4 things that you listed. And there is a big overlap between what you're trying to do with your page and conservation and what we in the deer tracking community. I just did my own podcast about the word community, but we're going to keep it in a very positive context here. The community is trying to help recover deer. That's conservation. And there's a big overlap there, and it's just, and there's no reason, and this is what I just absolutely adore about this, is just there's no reason we shouldn't be united like this and extending that hand and helping each other. I want to bring people to your page, and I want to, the other thing that I was going to talk about is you talked about the nostalgia and the deer camps and the family aspect and enjoying it. You do a remarkable job of conveying that through your messaging and through your post. And I really want to commend you for that, because
I think the reason it really comes out is just because I've so experienced that over the years. Those were just very cherished parts of my hunting career. And I mean, I know my father had passed away a few years ago, and then we had 3 gentlemen who, what I call like the elders of our deer camp. Another one had just passed away about a month ago. And so I'm still able to hunt with one of them. He'll be 92. So it's just really awesome that over all those years, this group is still hung together. And just a real quick story. I mean, a couple years ago, I think he had just turned 90, and we were up there around the deer table. It was opening day weekend. Should be out opening day morning. I should be out sitting in a tree stand or something. I wasn't. I was sitting around the kitchen table, and me and him were talking just deer stories. I mean, that was so much fun. I didn't even care about going out and sitting in the woods. I was having so much fun just talking to the old timers, reminiscing about old deer stories. And man, that was just great. That's just another aspect of hunting. That's sadly, a lot of people don't get now to be able to experience that with the deer camps getting smaller and smaller and things like that.
Yeah, that's for sure. And deer camp, for us is non-existent anymore. I mean, we hunt right out behind my house here, which you saw. Yep. You saw the area, part of the areas where we hunt. But we have our own version of it with my family here. It is camp. We're just not going up north, as we call it here, Kenny, in Michigan, going up north in to a cabin or pitching an army tent or something, like you see Dale post a lot of pictures of that, and it's a lot of fun. So we have our version of it. It's just different,
Randy, if they can change that one, that's fine.
It's just different. So
yeah.
Well, Kenny, feel free to jump in here, but I feel a little bit bad, Kenny, because it's a little bit of a departure from the normal conversations of our streams. But that's okay. A little variety is a spice of life, right? So,
one thing I want to touch on is the conservation side. You kind of breezed by that real fast, but Dale, I don't know if you realize this, but on average, there's thousands of deer in each state that would have been lost that we recover as trackers.
Yeah, I was just watching a video when I was talking to Matt. I think it was 2 years ago when we did that. And you gave me a stat, and that was some really. I think it was 2023 stats of what
Yeah,
the
it
Michigan
was.
Deer Tracking Network, and I agree. That's pretty awesome. That those are just deer that never would have been recovered.
And
Otherwise,
I know Michigan has a very high population of deer, and so do we in Florida. Our population is pretty good, but you get to some of these other states that doesn't have those numbers where you only get one buck tag.
Yeah.
And then they wound a deer and it goes unfound, so it doesn't get tagged. Then they wound another one, it doesn't get found, doesn't get tagged.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that now one tag could have
Has
cost
taken 3
deer's
deer.
lives.
Yeah.
And now with the resources that we provide, we potentially saved 2 deer in that scenario.
Yeah.
So
conservation.
Absolutely. So to the stats, and I do this just to share, okay? So for 2024, 44 teams reported. The network did 3,182 tracks with 1,336 recoveries. 24 of those recoveries were bear. So 1,300 animals ostensibly would have not been recovered.
Yeah, and I know when we were at that event, you guys were talking about. I mean, there's just some that aren't recoverable, just not a killing shot and stuff like that. So that was very interesting. I know some of those stats you were throwing out there.
Yeah, statistically, for on lead tracking, and we have always got to qualify it, and there's all kinds of caveats and things, but 60% of the time it doesn't end with a deer on a tailgate, generally speaking, right? And a large percentage of that 60% is because the deer is not dead.
Yeah.
So there are other reasons, property stops, went in the river, floated down, who was sunk to the bottom of the lake. There's lots of reasons, but a large percentage of them, the deer just simply aren't dead at the time, and that's hard for people who aren't in the tracking community to relate to that and understand, because they know what they saw. Our brains are powerful things, like I say, and we saw that arrow hit where we were aiming. Well, it was a little farther back than that. It was a little higher than that. You didn't see the deer drop, and you got that. You hit him in the spinous process. You didn't hit it, above the spine, So, but it really looked like you hit him behind the shoulder. And then 2 weeks later, when you get the picture on trail camera, then they go, "Oh, you were right." You hope you get that, but
And on the flip side of that, I mean, you take that lead off, and in the states where you can track off lead, and that average rate raises 20 to 25%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yep. Yes, that's right. Well, Dale, let's talk about the event a little bit. So like I said, you were there, and again, we appreciate it. You can't thank you enough for the support and promotion you did, leading up to it, during it, and then the days afterwards. But just, I would love to hear you talk about when you're telling the story to somebody. How does Dale tell the story about his attendance at the ABTA event?
I think when I was asked, I was excited to go, but I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, you think of, okay, a dog's tracking a deer, and you don't really look really more in depth than what happens, what you guys all do. So really just when I got there, I mean, everybody was very friendly. I know I bumped into a couple other people from my hunting page. And so I'm pretty comfortable right from the time I get there. I mean, I already knew you, and I knew some faces. I'd watched some of your podcasts. I knew Kenny from watching some of your videos online. And so didn't feel out of place or anything. Everybody was very welcoming, but still really didn't know what to expect. I know you guys had started out with, there's quite a few people there. And I think when we started, it was just a couple speakers that came up and really got involved more with some of the some of the the insights of what a deer is really picking up. So I think like when I look at people that maybe think about a dog tracking a deer, I think a lot of people have this, and I think maybe at times I did too. You really have this misconception that the deer or the dog is following the blood. And I mean, it's really you. So I think it was very interesting, and I knew, but you guys went way more in depth on that topic. But
Yeah.
as far as what the dog is really picking up, as far as the scent, and then I think really when we went out into the woods and we really followed followed along,
Daryl.
and yeah, Daryl, and that was pretty interesting in general. I think you I think from point A to point B, or to the end, point B, I guess we're gonna call it, at the very end where they where he found that, or the dog did, or both of them did, I should say.
Hmm.
Um, you don't realize how far a distance you go. I mean, that can be traveled. And as you guys had talked about, it was all very interesting, and even for me, as far as how the scent really, at times you're better off waiting longer. Even when you were talking about going over water, I think maybe a lot of misconceptions are, well, the scent stops right there. And how you were talking about there was that oily substance where it
Yep.
really just stays on the top. So there was a lot of little tidbits, like what I call it, that I picked up on that I really didn't know about, or at least maybe you guys brought more to light as far as more detail in your discussions on that. Um, and then, like I said, I think one of the most powerful things was really towards the end when we were outside behind the building there, and you guys were going through with a couple different dogs and trackers and some different scenarios with how scent was spread and time span that had been out there. That to me was very, I wish at times I would have taken more, or could have really gotten some video. My camera kind of died on that. And,
Yeah.
but that was just very interesting the way you guys were breaking that down, how it was displayed, because it was very simple just to watch and just understand why at times you guys are recommending, hey, let the deer sit longer. Or I mean, you have this misconception too, where hey, it's raining out. Well, it's all over now. Can't track a deer no more, which is totally false. And
Right.
so yeah, so there was this. I think throughout the day, I really just picked up on all these little things because everybody just has this. They think they know what it's about, and you really don't. And I know I never claimed to, and I picked up a lot of things throughout that day. So I was very glad that I went because really I just kind of really didn't know what to expect, and
Hmm.
way more that I picked up than I think I probably imagined. Um, so, but
And
yeah,
a lot
so
of that,
I mean, what's
a
it?
lot of that would transfer right over into deer as well. Like we're talking about the wind and the thermals, and
Yeah,
the updraft. Like when we did the confetti, showed that. I mean, all
yep,
that comes into play
right.
with the human scent and how a deer um, smells it, smells
Yeah,
us.
yeah, exactly.
Like in an afternoon sit, and people go down into a bottom, and the deer are walking the hillside because of thermals rising. I mean, they're not dumb,
Yeah.
you know. So it puts it
Yeah.
into perspective when you can envision that.
Yeah, and I know over the years, I mean, I've picked up from Matt where just talking to him, just the importance of for any hunter. I mean, if you think you made a bad shot or something, I mean, just stop. I mean, and you guys prove that through those demonstrations where the more you're disturbing things, the more you're walking around, it's just making it more difficult for that find.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
very eye opening to me. I think when you guys were showing that out there.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
maybe if you guys want to maybe some of my viewers, maybe like I said, Kenny, if you want to maybe go a little bit in depth more with that topic, with what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I know one of the things you're touching on is the grid search demonstration that
Right.
we showed, and what we did is Ethan laid two lines that morning at the same time, side by side. He laid one, then laid the other. He grid searched one right away, and we ran those lines with a dog 11 and a half hours later. Well, right before we went to run them, he went out and grid searched one of those. Okay. And the other one had been grid searched 11 and a half hours prior. The grid search one is the one that we ran first. And it took the dog 6 times longer to work out that the fresh grid search than it did letting that other grid search sit 11 and a half hours. It's 6 times difference. We did a time lapse video. That's how we know that.
Yeah, you guys proved that too. You even had like 2 or 3 dogs do that, and they same thing.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't just one dog.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, that being said, for the hunters following on Dale's page, and first of all, thank you, Dale viewers, for following along here. But you know what that proved is, or what that strongly suggests. We got Shane. What that strongly suggests is, you know, Dale. So trackers very almost break out in a rash, particularly newer trackers, when the hunter says, "Yeah, I grid searched it." Mm-hmm. Well, and I was at that tracker, you know, up until probably last year. That, oh my God, because you know there's this conventional wisdom that you're tracking the deer scent all over, and you're making this total mess for the dog, and it can be really hard to sort out. Well, what we're learning is, maybe you're not tracking the deer scent around as much as you are just disturbing the earth and leaving your own scent, which will dissipate quicker. And what that demo strongly suggests is that is the case. So the source scent is still there. You may have some residual things that you moved around in terms of deer scent, but not enough to impact the dog to want to go off on a false line. If the grid search can rest, then the disturbed earth and broken vegetation dissipates, because that dissipation rate is quicker than the non-volatile scents coming out of the interdigital gland and other things of the deer. That's going to stay there. So we prove that. Now, what I don't want people hunters to say, let me just go grid search because Matt and Kenny said that the dog can work it out anyway. Well, yeah, you know, an experienced dog can, and if we give it time. And we would still encourage you to not grid search. That is always going to be the best scenario. I'm not saying don't go look for your deer, but when you transition from tracking the deer to searching for sign, or tracking blood to searching for blood, and you've done a couple of arcs and say, man, I can't find any more blood. Arcs aren't grid searching. That's just looking to say, okay, I don't have any more. Let me call somebody and get some advice. You know, that's fine. Yeah. You know, that's always going to be the best scenario. But for trackers, just because it's grid searched, don't panic, talk through it, let it rest, and go track it.
And I want to add something to that.
Yeah.
If you're a hunter watching this, I have 2 tips. The first one is, if you will use a GPS or OnX or Hunt Stand, whatever you want to use, trace your line as you're tracking that deer, and go ahead and you can mark a waypoint every time you find blood. And as it starts running out, typically that there will be a pattern to the direction you're headed.
Yes.
You know, provided that the deer hasn't been jumped or bumped, they'll typically stay in that pattern.
Okay.
So
that general line.
Yep. Yeah, that general line. So that's just a tip for you when you're searching. So when you hit that end and you're not finding anything, try to focus on, if you do want to search a little, focus in the pattern direction that you've been going in. That's the first tip. Second tip, be honest with the tracker. If you grid search, just be honest.
Yeah.
Even if they get out there and it hasn't had time for those added scent layers to dissipate or settle, being honest and telling them that you grid search and where you grid search will allow the handler to help get their dog onto fresh track or fresh trail quicker.
Okay.
You get out of that
clean
grid
line, yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. In some of the other demos, Dale, that you were talking about, it is there are a few. Baby powder was the commodity of the day, and there are a couple things demos that I hadn't seen yet that Kenny exposed me to, and it's just like, man, I just love this. Is the one in the intro, as long as we're on the grid search topic, Kenny gave a couple of guys a container baby powder and said, okay, go walk around out there and every couple steps give it a little huff. And what that did as they were walking around, grid searching for blood, and that every huff put a little puff out there, which replicated the scent coming off the person, the disturbed earth, and then pretty soon. Now it's an extreme example, but it puts it in context and something that we can relate to. That same thing is happening in invisible form in terms of disturbed earth, human scent, broken vegetation, and all of that. And by doing that, you get 3 guys out there huffing their baby powder. Pretty soon, you've got this really faint area covered in just this finest layer of baby powder that you can physically see. Well, what we see with our eyes is what the dog sees with its nose.
Right.
So that was a great illustration. The other baby powder example.
Well, hang on, Matt, real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure you guys seen it there, but you've seen most of that baby powder was falling to the ground. But afterwards, I looked back and there was a cloud hovering above the ground because the thermal's rising and the humidity in the air. You could see like a layer of mist powder just hovering in that air. Well, for you trackers out there, that shows that scent will do that. And when your dog's not always nose to the ground, it's because there may be scent hovering in the air. And just keep in mind that scent. And then when people went out there afterwards, every time they'd step, you'd see baby powder come up.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when that comes up and wind blows, the scent drifts.
Yeah, it's redistributing the scent that you can't see. Yeah, it just really it really puts it in perspective and makes it relatable because when you can't see it,
right,
you can't relate to it, you don't understand it. By doing that example, both of them, the grid search example and the baby powder example, it just really makes it relatable.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to put that out.
No,
yeah, that was great information.
Yeah. The other was, to your point, Dale, about rain and what does water do if it rains on top of the trail, right? So one of and I don't want to give it all away because you need to see it, but there was another demo that Kenny did that demonstrated the impacts of rain on scent using, again, baby powder to replicate the scent. And he did it in two surfaces, a ground dirt, earth surface, and then a harder surface that could have replicated. I mean, he happened to use the downspout for the east troughs, but it could replicate any hard surface such as a rock in the woods, and the difference in the way that water interacted with the scent in both of those scenarios. So again, I'm not going to talk about it, in detail, but just to give an example of the demonstration that we did. The other demonstration we did was that confetti cannon, that little party popper convention thing where it just pops all this confetti out, and and that is very. The confetti, I've never weighed a scent molecule, and I never will. And nor have I ever weighed one of those, half-inch by 3/4-inch pieces of confetti that blasted out of that thing. But the confetti chunk is going to be heavier than a scent molecule, right? And we could see just what the air currents and thermals and a breeze will do to that heavier than air, heavier than scent molecules confetti. So if it's doing that to heavy confetti, and it was instantly instantly visible. You know, if it's doing that to confetti, it's doing that times whatever for scent, you know, and light bulbs were going off, you know, and particularly at a shot site, you know, of what that blast is doing, that impact, and with a particularly with a firearm, just a force of the pass through, and all of the things that you're not seeing, and just how far that's carrying that scent. And the nice thing about that is, so the trackers can relate to that. And okay, why is my dog 35 yards that way when the deer was standing right here and he told me it ran that way? You know, so that's how we trackers can apply that stuff. Hunters can apply that by understanding, okay, when I'm sitting in my tree stand for 6 hours, the longer I'm there, the bigger this is. And my scent is also scent, because scent is scent, and it is doing everything that confetti cannon showed. You know, so understanding how scent drifts and how scent rises and settles, you know, all of that can factor into you, you know, getting a shot at at your trophy buck or not. So there is a lot of overlap in scent theory and understanding scent and understanding how scent moves between trackers and hunters. Huge overlap, because scent is scent, scent theory, whether it's man trailing, deer tracking, wild boar tracking, or deer hunting, you know, it's moving the same. You know, so there's a lot of parallel there, and you can tell I just get into that, you know. I get a little geeked out about that kind of stuff because I just love it, you know. So I shameless plug here, you know, Kenny, you talked about when we were doing the baby powder example on a grid search, and you talked about the scent pool and why if the dog is going with its head up, and you're wondering why. The track I ran last night, just before our meeting, Kenny, was that intentional scent pool track, and I did it intentionally in that 30-foot elevation change bowl, so I could get some thermals, some descending thermals at night. And just before she got in the scent pool, and I got video of it so perfectly of her head coming up and just using the air on that final 25 yards because of the scent pool. And that's exactly what you're talking about. So you can go to my YouTube page if you guys want to see that video. That's at the end. If you don't want to see the boring stuff, just skip to the end. But
yeah, and even like I said that day when I was there, I mean, I think I really just highlighted for me like how much work and training in general all of you do. I mean, you guys are nonstop training for things, and not just, I mean, and for different scenarios too. I mean, you're even the event from what Daryl was out there. I mean, you're trying to throw as many variables in that you guys deal with. I know even just the variable of, hey, we're crossing into some private property, we got to call somebody. I mean, you guys kind of include all that in there, which I thought was really cool, because that literally is the real world scenario. You don't know what you're, I mean, like you said, when you guys, I'm sure, get a call, you don't know what you're going to find. And just like Kenny said, I mean, I think the more honest the hunter probably is, it's going to make it a little easier probably for you guys to begin that process.
Yeah, when we started developing these tests, you know, my goal from the very beginning was to keep everything as realistic as we can. Yeah. You know, and the test that you tagged along on, that's the toughest test we have on the handler, especially on the mental side of the handler. You know, walking up on 8 or 10 people grid searching, and you didn't even know they were in the woods.
Right.
You know, and Daryl handled that like perfectly. Hey, everyone just freeze, don't move. You know, if my dog comes up to you, don't pay her any attention. You know, we're going to get through this. You know, then going up to that mean, nasty property owner named Matt that wouldn't allow him on his property.
That was fun.
You know, and that happens where we can't get permission. You know, so what do? You know, we circle that property and try to pick it back up, and you know, you got to see exactly, you know, exactly how that unfolds, and that's stuff that we do.
Yeah, and that's something on my own hunting page. I mean, even just Matt always reminds me of that. I think through videos and stuff where, And once again, it did that weekend. I mean, it's so critical that hunters, especially this time of year, I mean, get out and talk to your neighbors because, I mean, as you guys talk about, I mean, most landowners probably aren't going to be too happy if you get a call. I mean, first thing in the morning or something. Try to get that contact with them ahead of time. And I mean, we all hope as hunters that we're not going to have to make that call, but hey, be prepared.
Yeah.
So,
and now is the time to contact a tracker.
yeah.
You know, not
that too. Right.
Wide open. You know, contact your trackers now. Get to know them. Do your research. You know, have them on speed dial. So I'm gonna tell you, when the rut comes in, you may not get a tracker. You know, depending on where you're at and how busy it is.
Yeah.
If you build that relationship ahead of time, they'll tell you, hey, get a hold of me as soon as you make that shot and you feel that it might be questionable. Contact me so I can go ahead and get you on the list.
Yeah. So when you use the term just for maybe a new hunter, I mean, when you were just talking about when you think you get down, a hunter gets down, at what point should a hunter say, I'm not going to find this deer. I need to call somebody. Is there a moment that maybe somebody, especially a new hunter that's maybe not used to tracking a deer or something?
So I got a few tips. You know, first off, if you question the shot at all, go ahead and contact the tracker, even from your stand before you get down. You know, if you feel like you gut shot it or, just something went wrong, go ahead and contact them. You know, a lot of times we'll walk people through finding their own deer.
Okay.
That happens pretty regular. But when you go and you inspect the shot site, if you see dark maroon colored blood, don't even go any further. Contact a tracker. It's liver shot. It needs to sit.
Yeah.
They get pushed way more than they need to. Same thing with gut matter, intestinal. If there's any liver, gut, intestine, just go ahead and back out. Because you have to give it time and go ahead and contact your tracker. Take pictures of the blood, clear, good quality pictures, and send them to a tracker. And even if you're not sure, we don't mind. Send us text. We've seen hundreds or thousands of pictures over the years. We'll gladly give you advice. I may tell you, hey, it's liver shot, back out. In my area, it's typically 4 to 6 hours because of the ambient temperature. Well, anyways, the tracker will say, hey, it's liver shot. If you'll back out and give it X amount of time, you'll probably find your deer within 150, 200 yards. But if you go looking and you jump that deer up and push it, not only did you push that deer further, but you extended that trail. With the one thing we get a lot is, well, I got coyotes.
Yeah.
Well, you jumped that deer that was laying 150 yards away, and now it ran another 300 yards. Well, now you just laid that wounded deer scent another 300 yards that a coyote may wander up on and find it. So that's something else to consider. And then if you've already started looking, and like Matt said, if it goes from following a trail to searching, just stop and call.
All right.
I'll show you.
I mean, just real quick. I mean, like, I know even with blood trailing, just like old school. I mean, we started out, where you learn things through your grandpa, grandma, dad, stuff like that. So there's a lot of hunters. That's why information that you guys put out, I think, is very critical, because there's a lot of people that really have never deer tracked or tracked the deer before. A new hunter, maybe just getting into it, and they really have no idea what to do. And so I think stuff like this that you guys are talking about is great, and what you guys are doing with the dog service.
Yeah. So I put this together last year and shared it out on my tracking page, and I'll share it here. But it replicates a lot of things that Kenny said. But my recommendations, and everybody will do it different, is when do you call a tracker before the season starts? Build that relationship now. the instant you sense something might not be right, just like Kenny said. If you don't like the shot from the stand, call the tractor. I had a guy do that to me. Did it for me a year before last. We had his deer recovered in 6 minutes. When you transition from tracking blood to searching for blood, like we talked about, if you find a wound bed, I recommend call. If you jump the deer, call. If you reach 150 yards and have not found the deer, you need to at least pause and reconsider the circumstances, because if he was boiler roomed, you probably find him. Give your tracker a call at that point and let him talk you through it. Those are my recommendations.
Yeah, good information.
Yeah, I mean that's spot on. You know, and it is critical to contact trackers now, because
I recommend it for sure.
And you know, ask the question. You know, let me just throw this out there for the hunters that may be watching. How many deer someone has recovered really doesn't tell you anything, because I hate to say this, but some trackers will lie. You know, the percentages really don't mean anything, because, you know, I'll tell you this. I mean, I've been tracking a long time, and I've had stretches of 10, 12, 14 deer in a row that we did not put on tailgate because they weren't dead. But if someone called me right then, I said, well, you know, I'm at like 20%, but by the end of the season, I'm at 66%. You know, and it should raise some red flags. If I found every deer that I put my dog can find every deer, or, you know, there's red flags. You know, just do your research now, get to know your trackers now. And most states, and like Michigan, you know, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, most states have a blood tracking or blood trailing network. And if you reach out to them, especially the admin team, they will let you know the trackers they recommend in your area.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like your events that you do with the training, like how often does the tracker have to go through that? I mean, as far as that type of training, or is it voluntarily, or?
Yeah, it's voluntarily. There are some states that require certification.
Okay.
Let me rephrase that. New Jersey requires it. You have to be certified. You have to test your dog. But there are a lot of state networks now that are requiring dogs to be certified, to be on their list. It's not the majority of states, but there are some. I
was just kind of curious, like if somebody says, "Hey, who should I call?" Or like, is there something they should look out for, or like the network and stuff like that? So I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, every state, like Florida's is the Florida Blood Trail Network, Georgia Blood Trail Network, Alabama has Nose to Ground and Alabama Blood Trail Network, Mississippi Blood Trail, and Michigan Deer Trackers.
Okay.
So if you just search, you know, deer tracking or blood trailing, blood tracking, you'll find a network. And if you look at the admin team there's also the tracker app that we partner with.
Yeah.
Is a great resource, especially if you travel the country. I mean,
right.
Oh yeah.
And you may not have done your research to know of a tracker in that area. Shane does a great job of vetting the trackers that are on that list.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, it was just a very interesting day, because I think, like we were talking, I mean, a lot of hunters really they really kind of think they know what you guys do, but they really don't. Because I learned a lot of stuff. I mean, that really, you have little misconceptions about. And so I was really happy that you guys invited me, and I had a fun day. And I mean, geez, everybody was just more than welcoming, and I just had a great time. And could have been maybe a little cooler out in the woods, really pretty hot.
It was warm. It was warm. So
we could have had like a water guy or something out there, maybe carting a little.
Yeah. Okay, noted. Water stands on the elite test. So we
need to have Matt as the water boy.
On that topic, like how do you like with your dogs in that type of weather? I mean, are you as trackers, are you bringing water out with you guys, or does that affect anything with the tracking, or like if they're in the mid process?
It can.
So it really affects them when they get dehydrated.
Okay.
So you want to keep your dog hydrated.
Okay.
Most of the time, I don't have to. There's water everywhere I track, just about.
Yeah.
But that's not the case for a lot of areas. I mean, I track in a lot of swamp.
Okay.
But
Well,
we do carry water bottles in a backpack, collapsible bowls, what I use, or take your hat off and pour the water into the hat.
Yeah.
Your hand, whatever.
Yeah. And it's a big deal, Dale. So, we ran, I think, 6 tests. 4 of them were our finish test, which is our level 3 test. It's the real deal. One of maybe 7, because one of them was the elite test that you tagged along on. But I judged 2 finish tests, one with Kenny and one with Kayla, and it was unpleasant hot. And that heat, shut up, Kenny. When North Florida people are not allowed to talk when Michigan people about hot and what's nice. But the heat management for the dog was a huge part of those tests.
Yeah.
Had Jim Nugent, and Jim, I know you're listening, or at least you were, because you commented here, and we're going to get to your comment in a minute. But Jim Nugent passed his finish level test with some, I'll use the word again, some masterful handling. But part of that mastery was the heat/fatigue management of his dog.
Mm-hmm.
He had to stop. I've been at least 5 times. We had to pause, take a break, get Copper some water, and that's all part of it. Because when that dog's tongue is out, Ethan explains it right. And Ethan is watching here, but when that dog starts panting, he's not sniffing. There's a difference between sniffing and breathing. If he's not sniffing, he's not scenting, he's not smelling. And and the dog won't slow down. Their sniff rate just decreases and they keep blasting. So you're covering ground, but it's not productive work. And then, of course, it's unhealthy for the dog. On Ethan's test, the poor guy, I mean, it was his line was there was not an ounce of shade for 98% of the track. It was in open fields. We had one fence row where and it was tall weeds, and it was brutal. And Moose got a little wobbly, and Ethan instantly recognized it. We went over into the shade. He dug out the ground to get bare dirt so we could get some conductive cooling, and then just did an excellent job of managing Moose, getting him cooled down, getting him rehydrated, and when Moose was ready, after probably 15 or 20 minutes, because there's no point in pushing it, even if it's a test, the dog's health always comes first, and worked it out, so being aware of it and that fatigue management and that heat management is a big deal. It can be the difference in our early season here in Michigan in a recovered deer or not,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to add that level test, those are things we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay.
That the distance, the age of the track, and then you never know what you're going to run across. Like you can't control the weather, and there's times even where I track at, even in October, November, we may see upper 80s, early season, we'll see 90s.
Yeah.
And you'll see a difference in the handler work when you start getting into those upper level tests, because typically those people have some experience behind them. They're going to do stuff like, digging out that area to get their dog on cooler soil, or, putting water, alcohol on their pads and their, under their arms, or I should say legs, and belly to cool them down. Or, you get one that starts getting wobbly and giving it a little bit of honey or a cake icing, those are the things you'll see on those when you get to that upper level stuff. Experience.
One thing that really stood out too that day I was there was just how much everybody in your group everybody is willing to help each other. I mean, you guys definitely are networking in between each other. I remember you guys saying, "Hey, if somebody has an issue or question, call me or call him." Or that was, I think, pretty cool that you guys are really working together, all for the good of what you guys are all doing. I mean, you guys are trying to recover deer. So that was
yeah, just like there's camaraderie in the hunting camps you talked about. There's that to every bit this extent in the tracking world. You know, in generally we're everybody in the tracking community is that way. They want to see everybody be successful.
One thing I think, maybe it was Kenny, I think in the beginning with some of the slide, I was going to bring that topic up because I missed some of that. You were talking just in the beginning, some of the slides with the selection of dog. And I think I kind of missed some of that. I'd be honest. I wonder if you could elaborate just real quick on that again. Because that's one thing I noticed. You always think of like an outsider. I mean, you need a hound. And yet there's like tons of breeds of different types of dogs that are doing this within your group and groups across the United States. What really, like I said, I missed some of this. If you could elaborate on that, what really what makes a dog track or like a deer track deer?
So I'm going to be honest. Matt kind of brought up a question a while back. At what point is the amount of scent receptors,
diminishing return?
Yeah, diminishing return. That amount for what we do is about 150 million scent receptors. So when you're talking a bloodhound that has 300 million and a bird dog that has 150,
okay,
when it comes to what we do, there's not much difference as far as that goes. What you really need is the balance between a good nose and brains.
Okay.
A dog that can work through problems and problem solve is really what you need. Okay. Because scent is chaos, like we talked about in the seminar. Everything's changing. What a lot of people doesn't think about, they think about ambient temperature, they think about wind, but when the sun's out and then a cloud covers up that sun, what happens? You have a change. You have a change in temperature. Your temperature starts dropping, the cloud moves away from the sun, it comes back up, and all that moves scent. Well, if you have a dog that has a killer nose, but it doesn't have the brains to think for itself, it'll get into something like Matt working that scent pool. There's dogs that have an awesome nose that could smell work out a 50-hour-old trail, but they get into a scent pool like that, they can't figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And part of that's in training. If we don't develop those skills through our training and allow the dogs to problem solve, but that's the big thing. So as a hunter, I'll say this: don't get hung up on what breed the person has. You can get a mutt from the pound and teach it to track. A bloodhound isn't the best. A Techel or Dachshund's not necessarily the best. Lab's not necessarily the best. It's the individual dog and the time put in.
Yeah, and the time put in. And one thing I do want to call out right there, Kenny, I did notice when you said a bloodhound isn't the best, and then when you started talking about Techels and Lab, you said necessarily the best.
I did that intentionally.
Don't think I didn't recognize that, you scoundrel. So, Dale, I don't know if
I caught on to some of the ribbing. Which I know some of the photos they played on you, man.
Okay, yeah. So you saw, yeah. So you know that
you guys do some lighthearted stuff in your group.
Hey, look at Chuck's comment there, Matt.
That knocks the bloodhound out if they have to use their brains. Watch my video from last night's track. Up your nose with a rubber hose, all you bloodhound haters. That is funny.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
funny.
but that is something, you know, and I'm glad you asked that question because that's something. I mean, is that a Brittany behind you there?
Yeah, I got a Brittany there. Yep.
Yeah, they make excellent tracking dogs, and a lot of people would never think that.
Hmm.
You know, some of the breeds. I mean, golden doodles,
Yeah.
standard poodles. I mean, we've trained so many dogs, um, and you would be mind blown at some of the work that they can do.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk just a little bit, and we don't want to give it all away.
Sure.
But I want to talk a little bit about that line that you went on, Dale, just for your followers that might be watching or watch it back, and I appreciate you sharing it to your page. But so like Kenny said, the elite test, that's the title of that test.
Yep.
That's the highest level that we have available right now.
Okay.
Who knows what the future holds? But right now, that's the highest level. It's our level 4 test. And it is a no nonsense test. All of the things that you outlined, and Daryl just truly did do a masterful job of working through all of those obscene challenges. In fact, there were 4 of us. In order to get to the elite test, you had to have successfully completed a finish level test.
Okay.
And all of the ABTA testing you must take sequentially. So you got to start at the bottom and work your way to the top in succession. Okay. So there were 4 of us, to include Daryl, that were taking finish level tests at the Michigan event.
Okay.
And we laid that elite line, crossing our fingers that at least one of us were just going to pass and be able to take the elite test. But but it was reserved for Daryl if he passed. Well, 2 of us passed. One of them was Daryl. So he got to run it. And so that's the level 4 test. That was the inaugural test. Elite test run for the ABTA. So you can say you have a place in ABTA history, Dale, that you are on the very first elite line ever run by the American Blood Trackers Association at the Michigan event.
Awesome.
So, but I did kind of want to frame that. What's that, buddy?
Sorry.
What was it?
Are you back? Did you have something?
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Cutting out.
I think I lost some.
Am I back now?
Sorry, my internet cut out on me.
Okay. Matt, like on that am I using the word for the line there? Like, what total distance was that approximately? That from where we started to the end, do you know, offhand or?
I tell you, let me look it up. I know the standard is 800 to 1,200 yards, and it was on the upper end of that.
Yeah, I had heard. I thought it was around 14 or something. Somebody had told me, but I was just gonna. Yeah, I was. But yeah, that was just a very interesting going through that, and I know I was kind of tagging along with the back there, and you kind of at times you're, at least for myself, I'm kind of walking around thinking it's like, are we lost out here? What are we doing? And next thing I know, it's like, dude, the dog. I mean, it's like, man, this is like pretty amazing. I mean, we went from that amount of distance, and there was times, I know a couple times where we kind of stopped there, and when the dog was kind of working, trying to figure out which direction we should get going, and next thing you know, we're on it again. So that was just I mean, I myself had never used one while hunting, so even just that trial was very interesting to me, just to see what the dogs are really doing. But I can't honestly say I've ever talked to anybody that's used a dog tracking service over the years, or last couple of years, that's really had a bad experience. Everybody has been very pleasantly happy. So yeah, so I think that's just really cool. And so I think just even tonight we're talking about, I know there's probably people that follow my page that really is a lot of stuff like myself that really never got a chance to really learn a little bit more about what happens when, okay, I call a person out, they bring their dog along, and what's going to happen. So I think it's beneficial that a lot of hunters get to know that, so they're not afraid to call anybody, because maybe there's that stigma. It's like, well, I don't want to call that, I shouldn't, I don't have to do this. And I think it's just, people need to know that, hey, you guys are out there for hunters if they're needed. And
Yeah. And I want to comment on that, Dale, and I'm really glad you brought that up. But before I do, that elite line that you followed on was 1,196 yards.
okay.
Okay. That was after the 400 to 500 yards of where the previous dog had run. So Daryl started to run that, and then he ended up going to the jump site, and from that jump site was 1,100 yards. But you bring up the stigma, not wanting to call anybody from a hunter. So I would tell you there is no shame. People they're embarrassed because they've never made a bad shot before,
Yeah.
or they're a little too macho to admit they did it, and they think they're gonna. I'm here to tell you, man, there is not one single tracker that is going to pass judgment on you because you had a bad shot. Things happen.
Yeah, every hunter has gone.
And that is why we're here, to help you. We may offer some advice on angles or something. Hey, next time think about this, but it's never in a critical way. And if a tracker does come at you critically, in a condescending way, that tracker's probably not going to be tracking very long. They'll kind of wash out a little bit, and so I would beg hunters, please don't not call because you're embarrassed or you don't want your buddies to know, man. Because what are you doing? You're calling your buddies. You had a bad shot, man. I gotta call my buddies, and then I will tell you, any dog is better than your buddies, and I know you've got the best buddies out there, but any dog is better than your buddies.
Yeah.
So just
Dale, I
call
don't know if you heard the story. I know a lot of the viewers have, because I've told it a few times on here, but I like to share it with the hunters that may be watching, especially following your page. I have tracked very well placed shots that would have never been recovered. I mean, we tracked one, John Vaughn and I tracked one last year. I think we ended up getting that deer right at 9 hours after it was shot. We finally stopped it and dispatched it, and it nicked both lungs and the heart.
Yeah.
And was alive 9 hours later.
And I remember when you posted that last year.
Yeah, that's one thing I know I've learned over the years. I mean, deer are just very, very resilient animals. I mean, it's amazing what they'll go through and keep on walking. I mean, it's just really amazing. You see some of these trail cam pictures and stuff come through, and
oh yeah, and there's a few things I want to share. Stay away from high shoulder shots. Stay away from neck shots.
The intentional high shoulder and intentional neck shots. Yeah,
right. You're right. Don't aim high shoulder, because typically you're going to end up over the spine. The spine dips down so far right there. And I over the years, I hear so many people, well, I shoot them high shoulder, they drop. Yeah, because you hit the spine. You hit a couple inches up, and guess what? That deer's long gone. You're
right.
likely not going to see it. Same thing with the neck. If you have such a small margin of error. Frontal shots, same way. I mean, frontal shots, they're just such a small margin. Just wait. That deer's going to turn. Just wait. And if it doesn't, you know what? Let it walk and give it the opportunity to come back again.
Yeah, I had that discussion a while back. I mean, Matt brought up before I interviewed M.R. James, just a legend in the
good interview, by the way.
Yeah, legend in the archery field, and he specifically talked about that topic. I mean, there's times where, hey, as a hunter, you have to let a deer walk. I mean, if you can't take a ethical, I mean, he pushed double long shot, broadside, quartering away. I mean, it's your responsibility as a hunter to take that ethical shot. And like you said, I mean, we're all human. We've made mistakes. I mean, inadvertently hit a twig or something like that, or arrow deflects or whatever. That's part of hunting. But we have to mentally say, should I or shouldn't I take that shot from the get-go to know whether is this a high probability shot. I mean, it's great that there's services like you and you're a great blood trailer and all this stuff. That's great, but it's still your responsibility as a hunter. The starting point is the shot.
Oh yeah. Randy Vick and I tracked one. Well, Randy got the call, and it was a upper 160s, 170-inch buck, and the guy said he had one shot, and it was a headshot.
Wow.
And he called Randy to track a deer, ran off. Well, if I remember right, it was about 500-600 yards in. Randy found the whole tongue, so he knew that it had hit the lower jaw.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Randy tracked that deer about 4 miles and then called me. And then I took it another 4.5 miles. It went in a straight line beside a highway. It actually went through a sawmill. And the hunters that gave up, my dogs wouldn't quit. The hunters were giving up. And finally I said, what, my dogs aren't stopping. I'm going to keep going. And we ended up jumping the deer, and there's nothing we could do with it.
Yeah.
But that he took that shot because he thought that was going to be the only opportunity he had. Well, now that 165, 170-inch buck went somewhere and died. I mean, because we couldn't eat.
Right.
Now you have no chance of getting it. Where if you would have waited, there was a chance.
Yeah, there's just that part of hunting where you have to. I mean, it's something you got to do. I mean, we all want the big buck or whatever on the ball, but hey, I mean, that's just something ethically we have to still take the most probable high percentage shot.
Yeah, and we talk about it in a tracking world all the time, and in terms of patience. And believe me, you're looking at one of the most impatient people in the world sitting here, speaking hypocritically here to some sort of. But as hunters, we're patient all year in the off season. We're patient enough to shoot our deer or our bows. We set the tree stands just right. We clear the shooting lanes. We set for hours patiently waiting for the deer to come by, and then when that deer comes there, sometimes we're patient enough to wait for that right angle, sometimes we're not. Yeah. But when we do wait for that right angle and you shoot the deer and your shot's not perfect, all patience go out the window, particularly at that point, because everybody wants to track right now. That's probably the number one thing that I'll say hunter mistakes in terms of recovering a deer is pursuing too soon, because all patience goes out the window, and blood is a dangerous thing. The minute I just want to go see if there's blood, you're toast. It takes some very strong discipline, or it takes a very good friend to say, no, we're not tracking that deer. I know there's blood. We need to wait, So patience is everything. Patience for the shot angle, and then patience after the shot. Even if it's a double long, have your cup of coffee, decompress, wait that hour, and then if you didn't see it fall,
I don't think there's one person that I've interviewed, and these are all pretty high profile people. Tom Nelson, American Archer, said the same thing.
Yeah.
He said his biggest suggestion was go get a cup of coffee. I mean, if you made a good shot, the deer is going nowhere. I mean, take your time and enjoy the moment. It goes in.
The older I get, the easier that is to do. But I remember when I was young, it was hard.
Oh, it is.
And I broke all kinds of, best practice rules.
Yeah.
Something else I want to throw at you, Dale, is muzzle loaders. I love to hunt with a muzzle loader. It's probably my favorite. Mm-hmm. It's also my favorite to track because they don't bleed often. And I can't tell you countless deer that I've recovered where the hunter thought they missed because they didn't find blood on a muzzle loader shot.
Okay.
So if you're a hunter and you're listening to this, don't take for granted that you missed that deer because you can't find blood.
Yeah, that's right.
Just another bit of advice is take time and reflect on where that deer was standing. Yeah. What direction it may have went at. Make a mental note, mark it however you have to do it, the reaction, so you can give us this information. But I did want to say, just because you don't find blood doesn't mean you didn't hit that deer. Even archery. I mean, I you had already left, I believe, when I did that demonstration, but we passed around what looked like a clean arrow, and then sprayed peroxide on it, and it showed the blood.
Yeah, particularly with crossbows these days, they're just so fast.
Yeah.
You can get it clean as a whistle, man. So we're talking about. I have a presentation that I put together that is a hunter facing presentation, and we're all of the thing that we're talking about here. I touch on that presentation. Dale, if you want to put together a Michigan deer hunters hunter presentation get together, I'd be glad to come up your way and. If you want to, invite, Tails on Trails Deer Tracking and, / ABTA representative can team up with Michigan Deer Hunters. We'll do a hunter facing presentation. I just float it. We don't have to. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That was very rude of me. I apologize for that.
No, I'm all for, just trying to let people know that there's options out there. And more, and deer hunting has always been, and recovery of deer has always been about information. And nobody does know everything. That's why tonight it's great. Times I've met with you guys a couple weeks ago. The more we learn, the more we get to know. And and like you said, you guys have tracked a lot of deer over the years, and there's probably stuff you guys still see that you've never seen before happen, or different scenarios every day, even though you've probably tracked thousands of deer in the past. So it's always a learning process. And so I think definitely not against anything like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, hunters can learn a lot from us because we do see the worst of the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when I get invited, Matt told me, he goes, it's like a dog tracking thing, but he goes, there's so much information that just a hunter in general can learn. And that can be applied to not just using a dog or nothing. And that's why I had a good time that day. Just kind of observing what you guys go through and how you guys train and how you guys interact with each other.
Well, there's a lot of things that we employ as trackers when we get the call, that if the hunters could learn about and employ, they don't need us. They could recover their own deer. Wait times is one of them, and some of those when to call a tracker things, and understanding the scent theory that we talked about early on, that can get you a shot at the deer, and then there's just plenty of things that are overlapped between dog trackers or helping the hunter recover the deer themselves. I'm just as thrilled if I can sit on my couch and help somebody recover the deer as I am if I have to load up my dog and go find it, help them find it that way, and that's what we're for. It's what we want to do is help how we can.
Even for last year, for an example, I shot that one deer and I sent you a picture of the arrow.
Yeah.
And I remember you're like, "Oh, it's a dead deer." It put me a little bit at ease. And we found the deer within 30, 40 yards or whatever. And it's always nice getting that reassurance, or if there would have been something, hey, maybe hold off a few more hours, wait another X amount of hours. So that's why nobody should claim to know everything, and that's what it's all about. And you're always in a learning process.
Yeah, another thing I want to touch on, Dale, because I know we do have some hunters watching that normally don't tune in tonight, based on some comments. The dogs do not hurt your property. It doesn't run all your deer off. Yeah. These dogs are highly trained. They stick to the trail of the wounded deer. And I can't tell you how many times that we have been tracking a deer and start off at someone's feeder or food plot. And, we get 600 yards into the trail and the hunter's trail camera's going off with deer at that feeder or food plot that we just walked through.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kenny. That's one of the big misconceptions. Yep. Let's grab a couple of comments, Dale. You mind? Let's just walk
go
through
ahead.
some.
Yeah,
But before we do, because I'm going to start with Jim's comment right here. Maybe Ethan's above it, but I want to pull this up. We talked right out of the gate about deer camp, and it just made me pull up this picture. This picture right here. This is my hunting party, man. Now my son-in-law, but look at how many moons ago this was. This is
pretty crazy.
This is my uncle Jerry, who is still here. Me, of course, my grandfather who passed in 2011, and my cousin Michael next door, and that's our camp, man. And that picture was taken in 2001, maybe. And old Unc is still kicking around. That's I love that picture. That's one of my favorite pictures of us.
That's pretty cool.
Whoops! Oh, let me stop sharing. Remove. Here we go.
I see the wrong thing.
No. Hunt dog. Ethan says, "Vintage deer camp stories, friends, food, no smartphones." Yes, yes. But Jim Nugent. One of the best parts of tracking is visiting all of the different camps and hearing all of the backstories of them. And that is true. That is one of the things that I didn't think about till Jim just said it. And we don't get as much deer camps down here in the southern part of the state as we do up north. And, Jim's further north. He's in Bad Axe, Dale. So, but seeing all of those properties and the camps and in their hunting buddies. So, we do get to see a lot of that. And I know Kenny down there in your clubs and stuff, you get a lot of that too. So that is truly fun stuff.
Man. We really need to get back to that everywhere. I mean, it's seeing the some of the division over the years between different styles of hunting and hunting is at threat all over the country.
Yeah.
And seeing
seeing
hunting clubs folding, every year and land being taken away every year for development. We gotta stick together. We gotta get back to those ways and slow down in life. I'll be honest, our hunting club for the last 14, 15 years, we got to 21,000 acres. This year we had to give up 8,000 acres that we didn't have the hunters.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Go ahead, Dale.
No, I think, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of people that really would like to hunt, I think, and it's one of these things where they don't really know where to begin. And I know I was involved last year with the Michigan Deer Management Initiative, and that was one of the topics that we were dealing with, recruitment of deer or recruitment of hunters. And I know one of my friends has been doing a pretty good job in working with some of the farms and trying to get some access through them. I actually got invited and for the early antlerless to be going with one of them for a weekend to kind of do a little video segment as far as how their group works and just trying to get some new hunters involved. And so anything like that, I think is really cool. And upcoming, they have all these hunter safety courses coming up. And I know DNR has been getting a little more and more better with that as far as trying to make them more available across the state. So,
I agree. They seem to be coming around a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to grab Ethan's
our
here.
Wildlife Commission is trying to sell off our public land to build condos.
That's true.
It's revenue.
Yeah.
Ethan says tons of misunderstanding on what's going on early season in the hot and dry conditions. Most attribute the issues to scent degradation, but my experience is it's usually the dog's working quality issues from heat, fatigue, and hydration. So that's in reference to, Dale, when we brought up, how does the heat impact the dog?
Yeah, you're
funny. Ethan and I talked about this yesterday or maybe today, whenever it was, but particularly for newer handlers, when we, maybe we get too quick to the scent's not there. Well, maybe your dog just needed to be hydrated, and that comes with experience and time and awareness.
I will say don't discount scent degradation in the heat because it is a factor.
Oh, it is a factor,
But Ethan's right. I mean, issues, fatigue and hydration is a very, very big factor.
Yep. So when we were talking about breed selection and dog selection, Dale, Courtney DeMello, she was at the event too. You may have met her. You have to also remember that you get to live with a dog as far as if you're looking for a new dog. So the point is, for 9 months of the year, that dog is your pet. 3 months of the year, it's your partner. Generally speaking, the point is you got to live with a dog 12 months of the year, 9 months of it, the dog's not working. So it's got to be a right fit for your family. And don't get caught up, like Kenny says, in a number of scent receptors and all of that. I mean, I fell victim. That's part of the reason I got a bloodhound, but I will have another one. It was
until he gets something different.
Until I get something different. I'll get something different at some point. I want to grab Dan Dawson's. Dan was also at the event. When we were talking about, hunters, please don't be afraid to call us because there's no shame in it. Dan Dawson says, that's how I got into tracking. I finally dropped my pride to call a tracker, and it was the best decision I ever made. It led me to want to help others. So Dan is a new tracker. He this coming season will be his first season. He's just got his Garmin, and he's working with his Dan lab. I think you have a lab, Dan. And so I want to pull up Gene's. I almost commented on it right away. Gene, when I talked about maybe we'll give you some advice, Gene Ferris says, I never give advice to the hunters unless they ask me. It seems to me some people get agitated when you give them unwanted advice. And Gene, and that's a fair statement. Yeah. And what I do is I don't just, the way I handle it is I ask them, I say, do you mind if I offer you a suggestion? That's how I personally handle it. And most of the time they'll say yes, and it's all in how you frame it. But yeah, I'm not just saying, hey man, don't ever shoot like that again, but you're right. As a courtesy to the hunter, I always ask if they mind if I offer them a suggestion. So thank you, Gene, for raising that point.
One of your speakers there, I think he was from out of state that came by that evening.
Ron.
Yeah. Do you have, do all trackers have kind of the same, what I call like protocol as far as like bringing a weapon out in the field on a track? Does every tracker kind of have a different, I guess,
how
they look at that, or
yes,
for safety wise?
Every tracker is different. I will say it's becoming, especially after Ron's scenario, and several others. Years ago, I can remember a couple of trackers that got shot and killed while tracking. Yeah. So it is becoming
it's definitely
the norm for us to not allow people to carry.
So as far as the norm, in Michigan, the hunter is allowed to carry the weapon of season night or day with a registered tracker, and you have to be registered to track in Michigan. So most trackers, whatever most means, will, if they allow them to take their weapon, let's say it's a firearm, most of us will retain the ammunition. And we'll give them their Barney Fife bullet if we have to dispatch. That's how I approach it.
Yeah,
generally.
It's all about safety, right?
If and I don't mind if they take their weapon, particularly bow. I don't mind at all. Crossbow, they are never allowed to have. Legally, you can't have the arrow in it anyway. Right. But I would never allow it, and I make it very clear what's going to happen if I find it in there.
I wouldn't even let it be cocked. Cock it at the time you need it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what Michigan's law is. I can't remember if if you're allowed to have it cocked or not. But yeah, I've done that before too, Kenny. Just keep it on cocked. And it's not going to be a race anyway. If we got to hurry at the point of dispatch, then we just need to come back later or something. But it's Ron's story was quite something.
Yeah, well, it was.
It's kind of like this. when you have an emergency, let's say your house is on fire, you're going to panic and you're going to run, or who knows how you're going to react. But you have a firefighter that is trained in the scenario. They go into it with a more level head and approach it in a tactical way, a tactical manner.
Mhm.
It's the same with us. This is something we do all the time.
Right.
That a hunter's adrenaline's pumping, and they see that deer get up, and we might know, hey, it's not going anywhere. It may get up and stand up, or if it is going to go somewhere and you're in an off-lead state, the dogs are probably going to handle it. So we remain calm. We know what to do, but that hunter's adrenaline makes them react in a way that they can't even control themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let's grab Kenny, because I'd like you to comment on this one. Let's Marley Savante's question. I personally never run my dog in anything warmer than 84 degrees typically. Different circumstances may factor enough for me to think our odds may be better, but I'm curious what y'all's opinion are. So considering that, and she's watching on YouTube, considering that you're kind of our heat expert, buddy, how would you respond to that?
Well, as you know, Matt, I mean, looking at Jim Nugent's dog, it wasn't acclimated to that heat. So that's going to be part of it. I personally recommend, especially early season when it's hotter, let your dog spend more time out there in the heat of the day. Conditioning the dogs is a huge factor. If you don't have a dog conditioned before season, it's going to struggle in the beginning, depending on how many tracks you go on. So that's going to be a factor. And I'll just say, if I wait for it to drop below 84,
you never track it.
I'd lose at least 25% of my tracks, maybe 30, 35. So we track in some pretty high temps. But the big thing is nutrition, hydration, and
conditioning. Yeah. So let's grab her second question. What are the factors you gentlemen look for that make you lean more towards perhaps setting your dog up for success? And I have my response to that, Kenny, but I'll let you
go ahead, Matt. I'll let you kick it off.
So setting your dog up for success, to me, starts in the off season, Marley. And I'm not sure if you're talking about in during tracking season, the approach to a specific track. But to me, even if that's the case, it starts now. It starts immediately after the hunting season or in the spring. I take it you're from the South, just by y'all's opinion statement. So, it all starts in the training, how you approach your training, and how you set the dog up to be successful in terms of developing the problem-solving skills it needs to borrow Kenny's expression, solve the track, not just follow a set line. So success, how are you going to define it? That was, I think, last week's stream, maybe week before, whenever we talked about success, I guess it was last week, and there was some great debates on that, some very strong opinions on that. But it starts for me in your approach to your training and understanding, but setting up your training regimen and your training lines to allow your dog to develop the skills to problem solve. That's
you want to challenge the dog.
Challenge the dog.
Yeah. And Marley, if you look me up either on social media or on website or whatever, Mullins Dog Training, shoot me a message, shoot me an email. You can even email me at kenny@americanbloodtrackers.org, and I will gladly send you over just a kind of a training guide. It doesn't go in step by step, but it's a good reference to kind of show you how I attack things.
Yeah, nice outline. So I got to call this one out right here. Where was it? It was really quick too, and then we'll wind it down for the night. Oh, good grief! Here it is. Alan Harold Grant, New Brunswick, Canada, watching. Alan, thanks for. We're international again, Kenny.
Yeah.
We're international again. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. All right. Well, guys, look, I don't think we need to, artificially stretch this out. I think we had some great conversation, Kenny. Unless there's a comment you saw that I missed that we want to pull up.
Megan's that came in right there at the end says,
Oklahoma, yeah. I hadn't scrolled down enough. Yep.
Yeah, Oklahoma, day or night, a hunter cannot carry a means of take on a track. If we come up on a live deer, we must leave and not pursue with the dog at that point. If the animal is immobile but alive, we call the warden. Warden can authorize dispatch in case by case. I wanted to bring that up because something that trackers need to be doing right now is building relationships with those game wardens in your area, because when scenarios come up like that, you have a resource, an outlet to reach out to for those scenarios. I also wanted to touch on that because those wait times can make a difference there. Obviously, there's still times where we'll wait what we feel is adequate time that may still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to bring that up because drones are a hot topic. And typically drone operators do not practice wait times. And there's a few things that could go wrong there. For one, they may spot that deer and say your deer is alive, and they leave. And some of them, not all of them, some of them may not know that it's a lethal shot. They just didn't wait the time for it to expire.
Mm-hmm.
And then another side of that is some areas it's illegal to pursue that deer after you have located it with a drone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're being ethical and you're being legal, you need to think about those things, your wait times. And the other side of the drone, not to bash drones, because I do have a thermal drone. I am a drone operator. Do your research on them as well. If you can find a drone operator that has a dog also, you got the best of both worlds. Anyone can fly a drone. Especially if you can play a video game, you can fly a drone. But I wanted to bring that up because wait times are important on both ends of that.
Yeah, she just chimes in. It's like the Wild West out here with drones. They're technically not legal, but they're everywhere because of the lack of legislation. So, yeah. Kenny, you brought up drones.
Into that debate, but I just wanted to bring that up because that is something that a lot of people doesn't think about, especially hunters. They don't know.
Yep, I agree. Well, I tell you what, guys, let's we'll wind this one down. Dale, again, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you supporting me personally, tracking in general, and then the ABTA. Generally appreciate the support of the event we had here, and glad to have you on and talk about your page and kind of its roots and its intent and the impact that it truly is having. So thank you for that, and we'll continue to stay in touch. And
we'll get some information out for hunters in general on my page for they can contact you guys as hunting season gets a little closer. And
absolutely, we're working on getting our Michigan list updated, and as soon as it is, I'll get that to you.
I wasn't asked if it was up or not. So
yeah, it's not yet. We're a little bit behind, but we'll be okay. We'll get everything going here. We got a meeting tomorrow night, so
okay,
that's good. Kenny, parting words, buddy?
No, I want to thank you, Dale, for coming on and
appreciate
it. Sharing your insight from the event and allowing us the opportunity to talk tracking and hunting.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the invite. I mean, because as we were talking before we started, I mean, we're all working together. I mean, hunters all need to stick together, and Our goal is to have some fun out in the field, be safe, enjoy the time out there. But if we do get opportunity, we need to make a good ethical shot and do everything we can to recover that deer. And so I just think it's cool that hopefully nobody ever needs to call you guys, but that's the ideal world. But we know the ideal world is never perfect like that. So it's great that there are options for hunters to be able to do this. And like I said, I mean, there are, I think, a lot of people that really just don't know that options out there yet. So anything I can do to help you guys get the information out that, hey, if you have a problem or if you need help, there's people that you can call. There's an app and all that. So anything I can do to help you guys. And I'm continually learning, and I appreciate information you guys are giving me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. We'll certainly be in touch. So we'll go ahead and hang it up here, guys. Dale, just hang with us for a second here. But guys, tell Tuesday, guys, more of the good, less of the bad. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.